Good afternoon. This is Frank Messina, and this is the Town of Chatham Historical Commission meeting of July 21st, 2020. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting who's listening in, please notify the chairman. Hearing none, I assume nobody is recording. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be and has been made to ensure that the public can adequately assess the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder for persons who are listening in to the meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 582-189-978 hashtag. You'll be able to join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda online. Despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town website as soon as possible. Okay, there's a couple more procedures that I have to read. There are certain procedural steps running the meeting. The chair will call the roll call, ask members of the board and non-member participants in the call to call their name and the last four digits of the number for identification purposes. After an agenda item is being discussed by the public body, we will request citizens and non-board members to make their comments and questions. All votes are taken by roll call. And at the end of the meeting, obviously, we will conclude with a roll call. Not done yet. Okay.
Hi.
The next step in the process here was for the chair to call the roll call. Vice Chair Bob Lear.
I'm here.
Sandy Porter, clerk. Ben Solozinski. Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Jane Moffett.
I'm on the phone.
Here.
Here.
Yes. Donald Aikman.
Here.
Steve Burlingame.
Here.
Erica Malaki. Erica is absent. And Steve, because of the absence of both Sandy and Ben, obviously you're part of the quorum and will be a non-voting member as an alternate. If Sandy or Ben make it, we'll switch at the appropriate time. Again,
Did you say I'd be a non-voting member?
He's a voting member.
just ladies and gentlemen, this is not conversational. Who is speaking first?
This is Steve,
Thank you, Steve.
and you commented that I was a non-voting member today.
I thought I said voting member. If I said non-voting, that's a mistake. So even as an alternate, you would proceed because there's someone absent as a voting member.
Correct, okay.
All right, thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you could please say your name before you get into a conversation. It's difficult. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the reorganization of the Chatham Historical Commission. Last time I heard that everybody who was reappointed or terms are up and reappointed has been sworn in. So at this particular time, I would like to proceed with the reorganization of the meeting.
This is Steph. May I make a nomination?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate the board that we have now, the officers that we have now. That's it.
Well, I guess we could do it that way. The way we have it now is Chairman Frank Messina, Vice Chair Bob Lair, Clerk Sandy Porter, and Stephanie Hamilton as the representative to the CPC. I don't see any objection to doing that. If there's a second,
It's Bob. I'll second that.
thank you very much. Any discussion? The only discussion is, I have no problem if someone else wants to be chair. I hear thunderous comments. Okay, so no other comments. We'll proceed on a roll call relative to the reorganization. Vice Chair Bob Lear,
Yes.
Stephanie Hamilton,
Yes.
Jane Moffett,
Yes.
Don Aikman,
Yes.
Steve Burlingame.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we've officially reorganized.
Excuse me, Frank, this is Michelle. Were you going to vote on that?
Thank you very much. The chairman votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I should have abstained. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our minutes from our last meeting, June 16th, 2020. Are there any,
This is Steve. I
Corrections?
move their approval.
say again?
Frank, it's Bob.
Yes, sir.
That's sort of nitpicky, but it says the vice chairman called the meeting to order, and I believe you did.
Okay, Michelle, do you have that? Christine is not on the meeting, right?
No, I'll take care of that for you. Thank you.
Okay, one other correction, if I may. On the second page, Michelle, down to the chairman's report. At the very bottom of the page, Chairman Messina let the commission know that the citizens petition, we should say what that citizens petition was. And the citizens petition was to rezone the Monomoy Theater area as a theater district. Any other comments or questions or suggestions? Hearing none, like a motion to accept the minutes as modified?
This is
I
Don, so
move.
moved.
Second, this is Jane.
Second by Ms. Moffett. Thank you very much. Moved by Dawn. Okay, take a roll call. Vice Chair Bob Lear,
Yes.
Stephanie Hamilton,
Yes.
Jane Moffett,
Yes.
Don Aikman,
Yes.
Steve Burlingame.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a procedure for hearings, which I believe it would be best if I make it known that we might have some new members, new applicants here to understand the procedure. Very simply, the chair will announce the application. We will ask, and the name and address, and make a few comments. We will ask the applicant who's representing to speak to the application. Meeting will then ask for the board for questions and comments. Any public statements in favor or opposed to the application. And then we will read any correspondence as it relates to the application. There will be chance for rebuttal by the applicant to any of the correspondence, board comments, and then we will close the hearing for deliberation. And noting that public participation during the deliberations is not permitted except by the chair recognizing. Okay, having said that, very simply, this was a long agenda, but now it's not. 305 Main Street, application 2020-011. We had two applications with continued hearing, both for being in a National Register District and also Chapter 158. Just so the public and the rest of the commission are aware, the applicant has received the comments from Cape Cod Commission, Sarah Korjeff, the preservation consultant. And basically, Ms. Korjeff agreed with some of the general comments made by the commission as it relates to the the size of the addition that the applicant was proposing to a contributing structure in the National Register District. As a result, the applicant is asked for a further continuance again to our next meeting, which I think is August 3rd, Michelle?
August 18th.
August 18th, and then we will continue. So I believe the applicant and their architect are looking at their comments and hopefully will present something which we could proceed with. As we all know, the Cape Cod Commission really prefers us to work things out at a local level. So that's the two applications. The application 20-0117, 65 Morris Island. We received two letters, which I won't read, but all members of the commission, I believe, were given those letters, Michelle? Michelle?
Sorry, Frank, I was muted. I apologize. Yes.
Yes, okay. So, just for general information, one of the writers of the letters was on the meeting prior to us meeting formally. And the woman, I can't remember her name, who sent us those pictures of the 65 Morris Island back in the 1800s. And she said she had a larger quantity of historic photographs. And I encouraged her to send those photographs to the Historical Society, where they archive that kind of material. Okay, so then we have the application 65 Morris Lane, Morris Island Road was withdrawn. And so hopefully we'll hear from that in the future. Okay, we're moving right along here. Application 20-0118, 27 Shattuck Place. Bear with me a second. All right. Hopefully, the members of the commission had an opportunity to visit these properties. I think it's important that we have a sense of what we're dealing with, other than on paper, and what's submitted by the applicant. So there is not a Form B for this property. Correct, Michelle? There's no Form B, but there's a Form D?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a question I have to ask Eric. When there is a Form D area for the public, the Form D is an area review of an historic area versus a Form B, which is an individual. Is that somebody calling in? Whoever it is, would you please mute your mic? Thank you very much. So again, we have a Form D, which is an area review of the property in question, 27 Shattuck Place. And it doesn't call out specifically 27 Shattuck Place, other than indicating it was built around 1930, and effectively it was a reproduction, which meant it was a more modern property. Okay, having said that, the applicant representing this particular property is whom?
Susan Ledoux.
All right, that's Susan.
Yes,
Could you give us a presentation of what you'd like to do with this property?
sure. I'm going to, if you each have your packets, and then Michelle, I guess, is putting it up so you can see, and I'll go through the project narrative just to make it easy. The existing home at 27 Shattuck Place is a 1770 square foot single story structure with a single car garage. The footprint of the existing house is over 2,200 square feet. The existing ridge of the home is 15 feet high. The existing home is located on a panhandle lot and is approximately 160 feet from Shattuck Place. And if you could see that street view that I submitted, you'll see that you can barely see the house from Shattuck Place. The assessor's map, street view, and aerial photographs show how the existing home sits well off the road and is mostly obscured from public view by the property at 17 Shattuck Place, which sort of sits in front of that. The assessor's information indicates that 27 Shattuck Place, the house was built in 1930. The home is noted as being within the Cross Street Shattuck Place area, and I think I won't go through my whole paragraph on that, but Frank, you just addressed that and how it's noted as a reproduction in that area. A building permit was issued in 1995 for building additions, renovation work, and a new deck. And the attached building plan, which I did submit for the existing home, shows the work that was completed on the house at that time. And although the existing home was built in 1930 with the addition and renovation work in 1995, this home does not exhibit any historical value that we can see. No distinguishing historical qualities can be identified for the structure, landscaping, site, or the setting. And so what I've submitted, we want to demolish the house in total and then construct a new home. And I've submitted the site plan sketch that was just up on the screen, and then also a photograph of a similar home that we built, and then the plans, elevation plans for the proposed home. And a new home will be constructed. The proposed home will be approximately 3,900 square feet. It's a 2-story full cape with a dormer and a 2-car garage. And it's pretty compact, actually. And we built a similar home over on Hydrangea Lane, and our lots were pretty small over there, and it sits nicely on that site. The footprint of the home will be just over 2,500 square feet, is approximately 13.8% larger than the existing footprint. The proposed ridge of the home will be 25.9 feet high, which is well below the allowed height, max height, and the proposed home will be located approximately 190 feet from Shattuck Place. It's about 30 feet farther back on the lot than the current home, so it will be even tougher to see this home from the street view. And that's my presentation. I thought I'd keep it short, and if you have questions, I'll try to answer them.
Well, I'm going to give you an A+ on your presentation.
Thank you.
You've learned to hit all the buttons, haven't you?
We try.
And that's a compliment. And I didn't mean to be snotty or snide about it, but yes, and a pretty complete application. Okay, members of the commission, do we have any questions before the applicant?
Frank, it's Bob. I've got a question for Susan. I couldn't really tell from the plans that you sent for the remodeling that was done in 1995, and you just mentioned that. Could you just go over what was added to the existing building at that point?
I can try to. We did not do the work, so let's see here.
Is that large drawing that you sent us?
Yes, it's the large plan. It looks, from what I can see, that what remained existing were a bath, family room, and bedroom, and living room, and then they added a new kitchen, deck, and a new entry. And I think that it was re-sided, re-roofed, and looks like I want to say a sunroom. Well, they're calling it a den, but
It looked to me like two of the areas said second floor above, so they put on the dormers to create bedrooms.
No.
Yeah, I can't tell. I'm only seeing one floor, so I can't tell.
They can't hear us, can they?
Continuous ridge vent,
It's all one floor.
living room addition. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I think it says over the existing den.
Okay.
Right. On the floor plan, it says new bedroom above. And then over
Okay,
the,
yep, I see what you're saying. Okay.
over where, I guess over the kitchen, it says new bedroom above.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yep, I see the notes, yes.
basically surrounded the existing house, it seems like.
That's the way I looked at the plan. It seemed like they built a new around old.
Yeah, that's basically, Bob, when I looked at it and looking at the plans, it seems to me that's what they did. They surrounded the house with addition.
Well, based on that, it would be my feeling that it's not if it was once historically significant, it wasn't after 1995.
I guess I would tend to agree. Does any other member of the commission have any comments or feelings? Generally giving our first element relative to historical significance of the property.
Frank, it's Don. I would totally agree with Bob that the building has been modified beyond recognition.
This is Steph, and I agree.
Okay, Steph.
Frank, can you hear me? This is Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Frank?
Welcome. Sandy, did you hear?
Thank you.
Did you hear
Yes,
all
I
of
did.
Susan's? Did you hear all
I
of
did.
Susan's presentation?
Yes, I did. I
Okay,
did.
thank you. All right, Jane? Ms. Moffett, any comments or question? Technical problem at the Moffett House. Mr. Burlingame, any questions or comments?
I agree with what's previously said, that if it were historical, it no longer is any indication of any historical significance.
Okay. Ben, have you joined us yet? No. Okay, we seem to have a consensus here relative to the property not being historically significant. At this particular time, does any member of the public wish to speak for or against the application?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman,
Who's speaking?
Dean DeCastro.
Yes, Mr. Nacastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking not as your liaison nor as a member of the Board of Selectmen, but as a neighbor. I live three lots away. I just have a couple of questions I'm not going to speak to the historical issue or aspects, and so if my question is out of order, please tell me. But since the applicant has put forward their proposed home and indicated that it's going to be located 30 feet farther along the lot line, 190 feet, I guess, from Shattuck Place, I guess I wanted to see if I could get a couple of questions answered. Is there a reason? What is the reason for setting the house back a little farther? It's going to, because it's going to be two-story, it will impact my own sighting out into the neighborhood because there is some clearance in my view in that direction, which is northward. So I was wondering what the reasoning was for placing the new home 30 feet beyond. And does this matter have to go before the zoning board? Are they going to be required to get a special permit, for example? I was curious about that. And I guess my last question is, with respect to the distancing of the house, the additional 30 feet, would the applicant be amenable to possibly modifying that to a 15-foot setback? But I'm not sure what the reasoning is. I just would like to get those questions answered. I'm not speaking of for or against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Although it's not related to the historical significance, if Susan has no problem responding.
No, I can respond. Can Michelle put the proposed this site plan up that I submitted? I know each of you may have your own packet, but if
Yes.
maybe Dean can see that. Yeah.
Is this what you're looking at, Susan?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we are proposing, if you can see, the driveway comes in as it does. It's on this plan, it's shortened, that panhandle, so it doesn't show the panhandle as it truly is on this plan, but the driveway will swing in, and we like to have a backup area. And because of the odd shape of the lot, we really need to set the house back a little bit farther, as shown, to give us that backup area and some extra parking. So that's, to bring it forward would squeeze the driveway. And then to answer the other question, I believe that we will not have to go to the ZBA. It's in the R20 zone. And we are meeting, that the lot is a conforming lot in the R20 zone. And the proposed coverage, we will meet the proposed coverage and proposed setbacks in the R20 zone.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan, for accommodating that question. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments from the board, I'd like to close the hearing. Relative to deliberation, does anybody have any other thing to add? We seem to have a consensus that this property, if it was a historically significant, no longer is relative to the kind of changes been made. So I think a motion would be appropriate, Mr. Vice Chair.
I can do that. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at, lost it already, 27 Shattuck Place is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
Step.
Stephanie Hamilton, second. Any other comments, questions? Was that a dog I heard? Somebody had a question. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
Stephanie Hamilton,
Yes.
Jane Moffett. Jane, we seem to have lost Jane. Donna Lakeman
Yes.
and Steve Burlingame.
Yes.
Okay, so that, have a motion passed. Thank you very much, Susan.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Moving right along. Michelle, you're gonna give Jane a shot?
I can give her a call if you'd like, sure.
All right. Okay, the next application is application 20-0119, 107 Highland. Again, we will be hearing this under Chapter 158 Demolition Delay Bylaw. Give me a second. All right. This is a interesting application. 107 Highland. We have a request for a full demolition of a property. The property was constructed in 1924, 1930. There is a Form B on this property. It is what they refer to as vernacular Queen Anne influences. And there is a narrative relative to the history of the property, mostly related to the land purchases of the property. And there also is in the application a letter from an engineer. I would take issue of it. We can get into that when we get to it. And there are photographs. And really, the application is really not to replace it, but effectively take the house down and put up a parking lot. Sounds like Joni James, right? Or is it Joni Mitchell? Okay. Again, 107 Highly, do we have the applicant ready?
Yes, this is George Riley. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. The house at 107, built around 1924, was inhabited by the Tuttle family from the time of its construction till just recently when Mrs. Tuttle, the Stackhouse, died, I think in December. And so 3 generations of that family lived in the house. They sold it recently, and the applicant here, they own the properties at 119, 107, and 99 Highland. And they would like to divide 107, as you can look at this plan, essentially in half, And so that the back half would become part of 99 Highland and the front half would become part of 119 Highland. And then the house that's there now would be removed, and an addition attached to 119 to make that. Now, this project obviously it has to go through a lot from here. It has to go through the zoning board. There's a lot of nonconformities, and probably the planning board and with some input from the Board of Health. But as far as the existing house goes, it's, I think, fairly typical of those houses built around that time, particularly on that street for people who year-round, people who lived in Chatham. It says it has Queen Anne influences, but when I think of Queen Anne, I think more like the Crosby Mansion, and it doesn't look anything like that. So I don't see that it has a large amount of architectural uniqueness or specialness about it. But it is an original house on that road. So I think, and I think they'd like to take it down in any case. From the engineer's report, he feels it would be prohibitively expensive to renovate the house itself. So that's anyway, that's the plan. So if you have any questions, let me answer. Thanks.
You, sir, are the architect, the land designer. What's your position?
Yes, that's right. I'm the landscape architect that was working over the project for them.
Oh, so you're the architect?
Yeah. Well, not the building architect. So we still don't have a plan for the proposed addition. So I'm just working on the subdivision of the land there, how we're going to work it out.
Okay. All right. So you're speaking from a land design point of view, not from not as the architect.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to understand.
Right.
And your position, or the applicant's position, is that you can't restore the house, or that.
Yes, right. Well, they can't restore it and use it in the way that they want to use the land. They can't make it work that way.
They can't. They don't want to restore it to use it the way they want to use it.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so I guess the question here, the initial question, we don't have anything to base it on other than the fact that at this particular point, they effectively want to tear it down and put a driveway in and two proposed structures, which we don't know.
Right. So the driveway, that driveway that's there is mostly already there.
Yes.
That's the driveway is going pretty much where the existing driveway is. So there's not a lot of additional driveway. There's a little bit of grass area added, but mainly the driveway is the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to massively put asphalt there.
Well, I guess that, I have a question before I open up to the commission, that the house could be left and still do what they want to do, but let's not talk about that. We're not designers here. Having said that, any other members of the commission have any questions or comments as it relates to what's being proposed, and also the issue of the historical significance of the home 107 Highland Avenue?
Frank, it's Bob. I've got a question, or maybe a comment. I don't see why it's necessary to tear down the house in order to put a giant addition next to it. Do we have a method of getting an independent evaluation by an engineer as to the structure and its compatibility with being able to stand on its own?
Well, I think, there's in the letter we received from Mackenzie Engineering, they're not saying that the house is in danger of falling. They're just saying that the bottom line is that it probably will be not practicable, whatever that means, to use any of the portion of the house for any modifications or renovations. So obviously, there's been no attempt, in my opinion, to use the house. They have a land design which they want to go forward with, and this house is in the way for their land design, and they have two proposed additions, which quite honestly, they got to go to zoning and planning board. I mean, they're going to put in, looks like another home on the property, but it's, it's beyond our pay grade. So, I guess if your comment, Bob, is, can we get an independent engineer relative to the structure? I don't think the applicant is making stating the position, and I'll ask the applicant that question, that the house is ready to fall down, and it's unsafe.
He's saying that it is foundation in current condition is not adequate to support the existing structure or any future structure at the site. So it sort of sounds like it's ready to fall down. Doesn't look it to me.
Well,
may I ask a question?
does the
Mr.
applicant,
Step?
1 second, please. Does the applicant have any comment relative to that?
Yeah, the way I read it is that in order to do any renovation to fixing the house, he felt that it would probably be necessary to replace the existing foundation, which is a concrete block parged over and it's cracked in a number of places.
All right. So
And the other was that it would be impractical to do any renovation since the framing structure was undersized and would have to be brought up to current code. So both those things make it impractical. It's not that the house is going to fall down or somebody couldn't live in it for the moment. It's just that it would be impractical from a money standpoint to try and renovate it. That's all.
Understand the financial issue. It's not that it can't be done. It's just.
Right. It's just prohibitively expensive for what you get. That's right.
And we don't really have what he's planning to do to make any judgment on that. But I'm sorry, somebody had a comment and I couldn't hear.
I didn't. He answered it. This is Steph Hamilton.
Yes, Steph.
He answered the question.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go down the roll here relative to questions. Thank you, Bob. Sandy, you have any comments or questions?
Well, I've been in this house and, yeah, it's an old house and it probably, I guess I really would like to know what it is they're going to put in, what they're thinking of putting up if they take this down. And the garage too. You're going to take down the garage. The garage is rented. Am I correct? Yes?
Yeah.
Hello?
Do you want me to answer now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you respond to that?
Yes.
Pardon
The
me?
the proposal was because of the nonconformities and the size of the lot, they like to put a 2-bedroom addition on the existing house at 119 with a garage underneath it. That's sort of basically what it is too. So they would expand that existing house, which is in far better condition than the 107 house, and then attach the garage and the other building to 99 Highland, and they were going to rebuild that as part of the 99 Highland, and it would have nothing to do with 119. So that's the overall plan. There's no current like elevations or floor plans at the moment for the addition, but the addition is what's planned, and the square footage is less than the existing house. So you wouldn't have 2 dwellings at 119. It'd be 1 dwelling, but it would have 2 more bedrooms than the current house. That's really it.
All right. It gets complicated if you look at, this is really a
It
planning board
does.
issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's got to go through zoning. There are a number of nonconformities here that have to be worked out. And
well,
so that's far from complete.
Yeah,
But
Thank you. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I apologize. Mr.
no,
Rollins.
that's all right. I'm just saying that the application to get this proposal to fruition is just in the beginning stages here, and we still have to go to the zoning board, and there's a number of nonconformities. Also, we have to go to planning, and the Board of Health will have some issues, I'm sure, that we have to work
Okay.
out. So
Thank
there's a
you.
lot to do.
I guess,
Let me just,
excuse
let
me,
me, who's talking, please? Please say your name.
Sandy? This
Yes,
is
Sandy.
Sandy. I guess as I look at the site plan, and I'm looking at the existing house with a proposed addition and then a proposed studio and garage, are they,
Hello?
I don't know.
No.
Hello?
Yeah, I
I'm
can
just
hear you.
looking at this. I find this just very, sort of very confusing as I look at it.
Well, it's
Am
a,
I the only one?
no, Sandy,
No, I agree.
who's speaking?
Oh, Janie.
Jane, I'm back on the phone. I think it's the most confusing layout. I've walked all over the property and I couldn't get it.
All right, well, let's focus, Jane, and let me continue taking a bit of a survey, if you will, or consensus. But let's focus on the first element as it relates to the historical significance of the property. There's no question, as the applicant indicated, they are just at the beginning stages. We don't know what they're replacing it with, other than the fact that there's going to be a major subdivision of this property, creating 2 new lots, which is a planning and zoning issue and not our issue. We don't know what they're going to put there, so let's just focus as it relates to the historical significance.
Just waiting to hear when we go on.
Who's speaking, please?
Hello?
Could you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. So let's continue. I think we've heard from most everybody except Don.
Frank, I'm here. From looking at the plans, it looks like they are planning to eliminate a house at 107 and expand a house to on one side and expand a house on the other side. And my question, I guess, is why couldn't they just move this house over to, I think it's 119?
Oh, that was the point of the engineer's report, that would be completely impractical and prohibitively expensive, as opposed to just building the addition onto the 119. That was fine.
Well, I understand that, but demolishing an old house is what we're usually opposed to. So if we can have it saved and use part of it to become part of the other house, I would think that would be a plus. But in my mind, Frank, I would think that we should impose a demo delay until there's more information from zoning board and from planning board and maybe even from the Board of Health.
I would agree with you,
Don.
but
This is
let's,
Steph speaking.
I would agree with you, but let's proceed along the next members. Did somebody want to say something? Please identify yourself. All right, let me
Sandy,
proceed.
this is Sandy. I absolutely agree with you, Don. I just.
All right, Sandy. So let me go through the roll call, please. Don't speak out.
Okay.
Thank you. Steve Burlingame.
Yes, I don't think this is as complex as it might appear. They're not creating any new lots. They're reducing 3 lots to 2 lots. They're not creating anything else. There was no construction of an addition to I forget the number of 99, I guess it is, other than they are going to replace the existing garage studio with another one. But it's not a construction of a house. It's a garage with a.
All right, but
quarters of
Steve, do you have a position as it relates to the historical significance of the house in question?
I haven't seen any compelling reason to determine that it is in fact historically significant.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go back one more time to see if we can get consensus. I think we have a consensus that there'll be some level of demolition delay imposed on the property as it is historically significant. But there's too many questions. We certainly can't adjourn this. The applicant has asked for a position and we have the legal position that we have to make a decision. So I'm going to take a roll call and get a consensus, and then we'll proceed with an application. Mr. Lear, would you favor some kind of a demolition delay?
Yeah, I think it does meet the criteria for historical significance. It's a
Okay.
little bit different since it's not the building itself that is so unique, but it certainly has a unique background in terms of history with families in Chatham.
Stephanie?
I agree with Bob.
Thank
I
you.
think we should put a delay.
Jane?
I agree with Bob and Don. It
Thank
looks
you.
just like my grandfather's house.
Don?
I totally agree.
And Steve, you said no, if I recall.
I
Okay,
respect you.
the chair feels also we should impose some level of demolition delay that the house, in fact, is historically significant. So now the next question, if we feel it is, should we impose a significant or a not significant demolition delay? Mr. Lear, you want to take a shot at it?
Well, I think whether we impose one of 1 month or a year, it's going to take them that long to get through zoning and planning with this, what seems to be a self-imposed hardship, as zoning might say. So I vote for 12 months.
Okay, we have a second on that motion?
Sandy Porter, yes.
All right, any discussion on that motion of 1 year demolition delay on saying the house is historically significant? I'll go down the list. Sandy, you okay?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Steve?
Because I have not seen any,
All right, no, I guess I need to reword that and make it a formal motion. We'll take a roll call on the motion. Mr. Lear?
Yeah, I can't find my cheat sheet, so this might be not as good as usual. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 107 Highland Avenue is historically significant in that it is associated with one or more historical persons with the economic and political history of Chatham, and it possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period and style. And therefore, the commission imposes a demolition delay of 12 months.
Do I hear a second on that, Steph?
Second.
Sandy?
Sandy Porter, second. Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Second it.
All right, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Yes. Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane? Don?
Yes.
Steve?
no.
Okay, all right, so we have a 1 year demolition delay on this particular property.
The chair needs to vote.
See how you proceed. This, the delay does not preclude you from proceeding with your rest of your application.
Right. So does that 1 year begin from July 21st, or is it a later date? What's the date by which that 1 year?
Jane, Michelle?
I believe the demolition delay is effective today, the date of the determination, and
Okay.
12 months, I'll figure out the days and I'll attach it to your determination when I send it to you. George?
Okay. Sure,
Mr.
that'd be
Riley?
great. Yeah,
Mr. Riley?
yes,
Yeah, this is Frank Messina.
sure.
If something changes, you can come back to the commission.
Right. We'll probably do that after we go through all the other boards,
Right.
so that'll be a clearer picture of what's going on. And by that time, there should be developed a real architectural plan for the addition at 119, so you can see what's going on there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope you
Right.
understand where we're coming from.
No, I do. And the Tuttles will be very happy to know that their house is significant. So that'd be great.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, Frank, excuse me, this is Michelle. I may have missed it, but did we do the second part of that motion?
Yes, it was a combined motion.
Oh, okay. And Bob and Sandy are the maker and the second?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, I apologize.
Don't apologize.
Frank, this is Don. You didn't vote on that.
You guys got to remind me to vote. I think I'm going to vote first. Future. The chair votes yes on the previous application. Thank you, Don. I have a sheet with the roll call list, and unfortunately, my name's on the top, so I forget it. All right.
All
Here
right,
we
thank
go.
you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Hope to see you in the future. Okay, next application is 18 Tappan Drive. This application, 18 Tappan Drive, it really put my GPS in my car. Had to work hard to find it, but we did.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
It's interesting. And every time you think you know Chatham, you find another street in another neighborhood.
Yep.
And we did. So there is, again, this application is being heard under Chapter 158, the demolition delay bylaw. 18 Tappan Drive. The home has a Form B. The applicant is asking to completely demolish the house and replace it. We have an authorization for Mr. Christensen, Mr. Haggerty to represent it.
Here.
Three builders. And again, we have a Form B, which indicates the house early 20th century. Interesting design. Good old term vernacular, which means they really can't say what it is. But it is an interesting property and an interesting house. I don't have much to say on it, except it's been there a while. So who's going to speak for the application?
Yes, hi, this is Jim Haggerty.
Mr. Haggerty, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. So in regard to the request, for 18 Tappan, just to give you a little background, the Christensens live at, they have a home at 16 Tappan. And so they purchased this in hopes to build a home there sometime in the next few years. We haven't started on that process, however. So let me just work into this. So this was a summer cottage, built in the early 1900s. Unfortunately, it's been vacant for many years and has fallen into disrepair. The home does have a Form B, as you said. It was filed in February 2015. Although the history there is very interesting, it doesn't speak of any distinguishing architectural features. And I did have my engineer out there back in May to review the structure, and he has submitted a letter that is part of the application that you have in front of you. He noted substantial dry rot and insect damage that has compromised the structural integrity of the floor system. The rafters are only 2x4s at 18 inches on center, clearly not even close to any kind of code requirements today. And the masonry chimney on the outside of the house is pulling away from the side of the home. Clearly, you can understand the owners are very concerned about its safety and liability. And that's part of the reason they want to take it down now and plan for their start designing their home to build there in the next few years. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Just Chairman Messina, I was looking myself when I viewed the property. So he feels it was built on the finished grade. There's no basement.
There's just block around the perimeter and some.
There's no basement.
Oh no, there's no basement. You can hardly get into it. There's
Okay.
a little hole in the floor that you got to climb into.
So it's like a crawl space situation.
Yeah, there's maybe 1 foot to 2 feet in there at the deepest point.
Mm-hmm. And the 2x4 rafters.
Yeah.
Good luck on that one.
Yeah, there's really not much that you can do with it, I'm afraid.
And the people who are purchasing the property, they have a home adjacent to this?
Yes, they have a home immediately to the right at 16 Tappan.
Okay. I did speak to some neighbors when I was there. I wasn't sure they were the owners. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, do we have any questions to the application?
This
But
is
the
Steph,
applicant-
and I do.
I'm sorry, speak again?
This is Stephanie Hamilton, and I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know who's been taking care of it the last several years.
Nobody.
The folks that, if this is Jim Haggerty, the folks that the Christiansens purchased it from are the folks immediately to the left. That's been part of their family's home, their family property there for a long time.
And I'm just
And I
wondering how it
believe-
got into such disrepair.
Yeah, I believe somebody passed away and just kind of let it go.
Frank, this is Jane. Is this an example of demolition by neglect?
That's what I
Well,
was saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
obviously,
me too.
it's obviously Sandy, I guess, is piping in. Jane, Sandy, and Stephanie are, Ms. Haggerty, addressing a subject which this commission has been concerned with, because we seem to be the first line of defense as it comes to this, which is, as we like to call it, demolition by benign neglect. Whether it's purposeful or not is another question, but certainly in terms of the character and the housing stock in the town, there is some concern. But, you know, our list is long of things to do. Right now, there is no bylaw in respect to demolition and to property maintenance, but we have it on our list of to-dos. It's a charming little house. It obviously was. And it's a shame that it is allowed to get to this point. But having said that, we really, commission members, we should reboot and focus on the issue of the historical significance, albeit the house is in very poor condition. So if there are no other questions of the applicant, I would like to just take a brief roll call, a consensus on how you feel about the property as it relates to the demolition. Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, I lost my screen. I thought I lost everything. Okay, anyway, I guess I can still talk. Okay, I'll go first. This way I will forget myself. I personally feel the house, you know, it may have had historical significance, but given its current condition, I think it's there's not much hope for it. So that's how I feel. Bob?
Well, I tend to agree with you, Frank. It's sort of, it's 75 years old, and that's about the only criteria it meets. It's a nice old house, no architectural significance, no people of history related to it. So I don't think it quite qualifies, although it's too, as you said, too bad that it got to be the way it is.
Right. Sandy?
I agree. I'm sorry to see it go, but I agree.
Stephanie?
I agree. I still think it's neglect.
Yes. Jane?
I agree with what everybody said so far.
Don?
Yeah, I agree.
Steve?
I think this is I agree, but I'd like to comment that I think this could be a very good teaching opportunity for us. This, we haven't, that I know of, really zeroed in on the whole idea of early summer cottages in Chatham, which this, I think, clearly is. It's what they were, it's what they were built, and historically, in what we need to protect, we need to give some consideration to that period of Chatham when summer cottages were built, and I don't like to see them all torn down. Some are old houses, some are just typical 1920s summer cottages, and this is one, and I think this is a great one. I feel badly it's deteriorated so far that there's really no future for it. But I think it's a good good teaching tool for us to pay attention to what our position is or should be regarding old summer cottages.
Well, Steve, I This is Frank. I really appreciate your comment because it's interesting. You know, I have on our agenda things that I guess we title it issues on hold due to the virus, and certainly the issue of demolition by benign neglect or the property maintenance somehow was lost from our agenda. And it's something we should put back on. But I think we could tie it back into this special issue you talked about, which is cottages. I mean, we have some significant properties in Chatham, which are cottages, the white cottages, and where I am in South Chatham. Well, I'm giving a lecture now, and I shouldn't, but I think I'd like to put that down for future discussion. All right, so we seem to have consensus that the property is not historically significant, and we would probably not impose a demolition delay. Mr. Vice Chair, can you help me?
I can make a motion.
Thank you.
I move that Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 18 Tappan Drive is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2 A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose the demolition delay.
Do I hear a second?
Jane.
Jane,
Second.
thank you, Jane. Okay, roll call. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
the chair
It's
votes
Jane,
yes.
I said yes.
Sorry, Jane, I thought I heard you. Okay, all right, so, Mr. Haggerty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that ends that particular application. And Michelle, I think I'd like you to do me a favor and add that to the next agenda under, issues on hold. It seems to have gone off our agenda. I was looking at it. So if you could put that back on, the issue of property maintenance and neglect of properties.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll take care of that, yes.
And it's something the next chairman can worry about. Oh, that's me. All right, here we go.
This is
Guys,
Steve.
you guys are killing me. Okay, hold on. Steve?
Yes, I'd like to make a quick comment that, at our last meeting, we had a, reasonably contentious discussion about a house in Sears Point. And it
Steve, can I ask you, are you on a telephone?
I am.
Yes?
Yes, I am.
All right, it's very hard to hear you, so you're gonna have to speak into the phone and speak up.
Okay, I will. At our last meeting, we had quite a discussion about the house on Sears Point, which was a summer cottage. And it was a summer cottage that looked like, a nice summer cottage. And I think that discussion, I thought was very reasonable in its conclusion, but at the same time, it opens up that real question of summer cottages and how we're going to feel about them. Because even if it means changing our own bylaw regarding older houses, because as you say, some of the cottage colonies are not that old, but they are unique and they are part of Chatham's heritage and history and architecture, et cetera.
Okay.
I think that sometimes when we don't have a hearing, we should have a discussion instead, a general discussion as to what our attitude is going to be about that type of building. It's just like the 1920 house, the 1940 house. It's like the one on Highland Avenue. It's an older house.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Deserves some consideration at some time.
Steve, what we'll do is we'll put it on our agenda as it relates to issues on hold, okay, due to the limitations. You have to remember the town of Chatham has made it very clear that they really only want us to proceed on regulatory items, and non-regulatory items, the town wants us to hold back. So we
That's
do
fine.
have limitations.
If you put it on the agenda, just kick it down the road, that's fine with me.
I'm sorry, can't hear you, Steve.
If you put it on the agenda, but kick it down the road, that's fine with me.
Yes, absolutely, Steve. I got it, and Michelle has it, more important. Okay. Our last application is 20021, 255 Old Harbor Road. And again, this is an application to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 Demolition Delay Bylaw. All right, give me a second.
Any chance of getting on or not? Who are you gonna talk to about this?
Janie?
Mute the microphone, please.
Yeah, sorry.
255 Old Harbor Road. The applicant is property owner Joan Cook, and Mr. Peter Bickford, I believe, is going to present it. There is a Form B on the property. This is an 1850 home, Greek Revival. It has had a number of additions, and I don't think there's any question from the applicant relative to the historical significance of the property. And the applicant is making a number of changes to I believe, the side of the property, and some window changes. So having said that, is the applicant here, Mr. Bickford?
I am here, and I am on the cell phone. I hope you can hear me.
Oh, yes, you're fine. Steve, you got to get a
Good.
cell phone like that one.
I just got it last week, so in preparation for this meeting.
Ah, well, I appreciate that.
Would you like me to give a rundown of what we're trying to do?
Yes, absolutely. That would be appreciated, sir.
Okay, the Cooks bought this house last year, and we're well aware of the historical significance. What we're trying to do is update it so that it's livable for them. You gave us approval last year for improving the stairway. Mrs. Cook has just turned 80. That was a significant change to help her maneuver into the house. Now we want to update the kitchen, and the most significant change, I think, is on the driveway side. You can see it through the bushes from Old Harbor Road, and it involves the kitchen sink and the lab on the first floor. What we're trying to do is, well, actually, there's a 70s casement window that we're going to remove, and then there are two older windows, 6/6s, that we're going to remove and relocate, keeping the same true divided lights, simulated divided lights, so to keep the look of the house the way it should be. But we need to relocate these windows in order to make the kitchen work. The back side of the house, which you really can't see from the street, involves a double casement window on the corner, and then as you turn the corner again, in the rear side of the house is a triple casement window with a door that you previously had approved. We're going to take the siding off, and we're going to put, which is vinyl. We're going to improve it to shingles and a combination of clapboards. That's going to be phase 3. We're on phase 2 of this house now. Going to take all the vinyl siding off and reside the house.
Well, that's great to hear
Basically,
that. Yeah. Well, that's appreciated. I know there was a question relative to your work as it relates to the cumulative nature of it, versus, one application. So I know Michelle tries to be cooperative, but we just reach a point where we feel you need to come back to the commission so we get a sense of it. So can I ask, what is the next phase of the house? The next phase is what?
The next phase would be residing.
Okay.
The significant changes are in front of you. There are no more
Right.
window changes. We've actually, we're going to put bathrooms in upstairs and on the first floor, but we're going to keep all the windows. We're going to restore them. So there will be no more window changes after this application.
Right.
It'll just be siding and possibly roofing.
Well, just, it's kind of getting ahead of the game, but Michelle will tell you, that generally forms under what we call maintenance, the siding as well as the roofing. But quite candidly, I'm very pleased to hear they're going to get rid of that aluminum siding. That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
well.
And I'm sorry that the thing didn't get done in one application, but this COVID thing threw a considerable snag into the operation here, because the Cooks previously owned a beautiful property at the end of Crows Pond Road. And Mr. Cook died. They ended up selling the property. They bought this property, and Mrs. Cook is involved with this new house with her 4 daughters who are spread out throughout the United States. And the coordination's been, I'll say, a little bit difficult.
Well,
otherwise, we would have had one, and that combined with the COVID, we would have had this a whole plan for you. But that's why we're doing it in phases.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much. And I know Michelle's being cooperative as much as she can. All right. Having said that, members of the commission have any comments or questions? Mr. Lear?
Sorry, I was muted. The consensus is that it's historically significant, but the changes will not impact that significance.
Well, we don't have a consensus yet.
Oh,
but I
okay.
just wanted
Well, that's
to
my
say-
thought.
No. I mean, that's Frank talking. All right, so I think I understand where you're coming. Whoever's got the phone, can you please shut it off? Thank you. Sandy?
I don't have a problem with the changes. I like the idea of bringing back the shingles and the third part of it. No, I went by and saw it and got out and wandered around. So yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Stephanie?
I'm okay.
Jane?
Yes, I wandered around too, and I'm always glad when they save an old house. It was such a relief that it wasn't a tear down.
Thank
I
you
like
very
what
much.
you're doing.
Steve?
I think it's a great application. I'm fully in favor of it.
Very good. Okay, I think we have a consensus. Any member of the public want to speak for or against the application?
Could I just say one more thing?
Yes, you can.
I was on the planning board in Hingham for 13 years. I've been on the Board of Health for 20 years. I wish we had a Michelle Clark in Hingham. You guys are lucky.
Second
Michelle.
that.
There you go.
Michelle, how much
Yeah.
did you pay him?
Peter, I'm blushing, but thank you for the kind compliment. You're a
Very
pleasure
true.
to work.
You guys have been great, and I just want to say that the Cooks really are trying to do the right thing, and they're very sensitive to you guys and the town of Chatham.
Well, we appreciate that. And gee, you should write a letter about Michelle. Okay, that's comment. All right, Mr. Lear, can we have a motion?
Yeah, I have a question for Michelle first. If I am correct, this was previously found historically significant?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay,
Right.
so I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 255 Old Harbor Road is historically significant because for the reasons for which the commission previously found that it met those criteria, and that the proposed work will not materially diminish its historical significance, and therefore no demolition delay is imposed.
Do we hear a
Jane,
second?
second.
Second by
Jane,
Jane?
second. Second.
All right, we're going to go roll call. If there are no other comments or questions, Vice Chair Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes,
Steve,
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay,
Okay, thank you, everyone.
thank
Have
you
a good
very much.
weekend.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
bye.
Thank you.
Uh,
Bye.
We have a couple of quick
Frank?
items to dispose of, if you would bear with me. Status of demolition delays, which you all have. I was going to say more about 68 Shell, but other than to say that the property has been sold and the demolition delay expires, I'll speak more to that. 157 Cross Street, there are some people, or a couple of people talked about the ability to move that, and there is a ZBA meeting tomorrow on the 23rd. I'm not sure of the time, but I assume the ZBA is related to the home that's going to want to replace it after they tear it down, because our demolition delay expires in the first week in August. 2233 Seaview, no action. No action on the 389 Bridge Street or 117 Shattuck Place. So one other comment I would make on the lifted delays, if you have a chance, I would recommend that you take a ride down Champlain Road and visit 154. The vast majority of the construction is done, and the house which the applicant agreed to save is there and looking pretty good. So I think we've got a win-win here in saving that property, the streetscape and the seascape, for a home that's going to be built, which does not look like the other massive, ugly things that are being built along Stage Harbor Road. So I think that's a positive. Just quickly, if I can, we're not supposed to have really major discussions on it. 68 Shell Drive, as I said, the property is sold. Mr. Joe Chickleone, the new owner, has been very cooperative and has been working with the Nickerson Family Association and myself in trying to find a way to save the house. I will send to you a copy of a report that was done for the Nickerson Family Association. We had always assumed that the circa 1700 portion of the house was the small portion with the chimney. Greg Cartier and another gentleman by the name of Dave Wheelock, both historical archaeologists, entered the property with permission and opened up some walls and checked some beams in the cellar. And they have determined beyond really any doubt that the 90% of the entire house was built in between 1650 and 1720.
Wow.
That is what's called a first period house. So there's no question in my mind that this is the oldest property, oldest home in Chatham that's intact. The applicant, Mr. Chickleone, still wants to try and save the house. I don't have any updates from the Nickerson family of whether or not they think they can take it. They may not be because it's too big, but we're working very hard to try and find a way to save it. And currently, the owner, Mr. Chickleone, is being cooperative. So stay tuned on that one. So even with the virus, things are happening. Monomoy Theater property, I just sent out to you an updated National Registered District applications from the Mr. Greg Clark and Alexandria Properties. They're in conversation with Mass Historic relative to the eligibility of 770 Main Street as a National Registered District, which would allow them to proceed on their restoration of the theater and the residents on their property. South Chatham Village, Mass Historic assures me that they're moving forward, although they don't have any questions at the present time. So it's going to take at least another year on that one. I have added on the agenda the potential zoning bylaw, which provides changes to enhance historic preservation. I have asked the town of Chatham to the proper channels, Ms. Katie Donovan, the chairman, the director of community development, to attempt to get this bylaw back on the track again. we held it back with the demolition delay, with the virus, but we need to be in a position, in my view, by our next town meeting, which may be now May of next year, and hopefully get this bylaw passed. Because if we do get it passed, I think it's a good chance it may be instrumental in helping us save 68 Shell Drive. That was a speech, and that's all I have to say.
Frank, this is Don.
Yes, sir.
On the theater property, can you tell me what what's going to happen to the Calvin Hammond house, which is the ice cream shop on Depot Road? Is that part of the historic portion? Or,
Don, I don't believe so. I just got that, their application again from Alexandra, Greg's daughter. But I believe the answer, it is not. It is not. And I think the HBDC, I'm not sure if they've made a formal determination to allow them to demolish that or not. But obviously it's not in our jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other quick questions? Because they really don't want us to discuss this item. Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Sandy. This is Sandy. I'm sorry, I have not been able to I wasn't able to reload Microsoft Teams, but please just sort of tell me what happened with 305 Main Street. That's been continued to when?
Oh, I guess you weren't here at the beginning.
No, I
August
wasn't.
18th.
The 305 Main Street,
Yeah.
Sarah Korjeff provided comments to the applicant and to us, and the applicant has now decided to go back and potentially try to incorporate some of Sarah Korjeff's comments. Could you please mute your microphone if you're not talking? Thank you. And Sarah, so the applicant, Michelle, can correct me here. They are now working on a modification to their original plans to be more in line with Cape Cod Commission's comments. Michelle, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. Our designer is still working on the plans, didn't have anything finalized for today's meeting, so they've asked for a continuance to August 18th. It is my hope that they have plans for you at that time.
And Sandy, if you missed the beginning, 65 Morris Island was withdrawn. The deal has fallen through, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was what I needed to. I couldn't get on, and I was very curious. So, thank you for catching me up. And I take it you're our chairman again, because I missed all of that.
No, Sandy, I'm sorry. Oh,
what?
Sorry, Sandy. You missed that.
You missed the election.
You're the new chairman.
Reelected.
Sandy, you're the new chairman.
No.
Wait a second.
No.
You missed the beginning of the meeting. I'm sorry.
I did, but no.
No, Sandy,
Very funny.
you were reappointed as clerk.
Okay, thank you. That'll be fine. That's very good. So, Morris Island. Okay, I was reading the letters that we had gotten on that, and I was I'm not surprised that it was withdrawn.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, your chair made a comment at the beginning of the meeting that
Frank, I have a question. Steph Hamilton.
I am not planning to be chairman forever. So, got to think about that, guys. Somebody's playing with their video. Can you turn it off? Okay, somebody had a question?
Steph Hamilton.
Yes.
I have two questions. You're going to laugh at the first one. I'm on the window that says I can download the meeting. Do I go to download the window app or join the web instead?
Is someone from...
Join the web instead.
Join the web instead. Okay, thank you. Now, my question. This week in the Chronicle, there was an article about Little Beach. And there was a quote from Mr. Riley saying that the buildings have been determined not to be historically significant by the Historic Commission and are not worth elevating. I called Michelle about this. She looked in the minutes of December 5th, 2019, and we never said that the buildings are not worth elevating. And that
Well-
bothered me greatly.
Well, I guess there was one comment earlier in the meeting about someone get in touch with the Chronicle and ask for a correction.
Yes, and that's what I think should happen. Because I think it makes the Historic Commission look terrible.
Well, Steph,
Yes,
do you mind my delegating that action to you?
not at all.
Okay, if you would prepare a brief email and to Mr. Wood and to correct the record, I think we have consensus among the members of the commission. Do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody
Yes.
not agree? Okay, I think that's appropriate. It's in kind of a low-level independent action, but I would agree.
Would it be all right if I called him because I can't get my computer to work instead of emailing
Sure.
him? Okay.
Sure, I would do that. That would be, I'm sure Tim would be receptive to that. Today's Tuesday, so you're not gonna get in this week, so,
Right.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I will inform you as soon as I know anything specific on 68 Shell Drive. I think it's really good if we can find a way to save this, but it's a long road. It's just the beginning, but we seem to have some people who would try to save it, so it's not going to be an easy one. So, but I think it's worth the fight.
Mhm.
Okay. If there are no other comments, any members of the public want to ask any questions? There was somebody still on. I can't find them, but if there are no other members of the public who want to speak to any items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, and then we have to do a roll call.
I move to
I move that
adjourn.
we adjourn.
I think we had a
Second.
move by
Jane.
Mr. Aikman and a second by Sandy.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's talk one at a time.
one at a time. Vice Chair Lear,
Bob?
Mhm.
Bob?
Sorry, yes.
Yes. Sandy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.